Hello everyone. Today we will analyze a game played by the German Grandmaster Emil Joseph Daimer. A very close friend of mine, Naresh Rao, recommended that I should analyze this game, so here it is. Before we begin, let me introduce to you all Emil Joseph Daimer. Daimer was a brilliant chess player. Unfortunately, he had a very tragic life that marred his career in chess. Born in 1908, Daimer was a Nazi supporter in Germany and was a Nazi party member. He was known for his eccentric brilliance in chess and would represent the Nazi Germany in all important international chess events. But after the war, the stigma of being Nazi did not really go well for him, and in 1953 he was expelled from the German Chess Federation. Soon he lost his interest in chess and became occupied in decoding prophecies made by Nostradamus. He became increasingly eccentric and in 1965 was diagnosed as a psychiatric patient. Chess was banned for him as psychiatrists considered chess to be too stressful for Daimer's feeble mind. It was only in 1971 that he was allowed to play chess again. Daimer was known to play extremely unorthodox openings. The game which we are analyzing today was played by Daimer in 1984 when he was 76 years old, 6 years before he died. In this game, Daimer was white and his opponent was a very strong player by the name Thomas Hilling. So let's begin this game. Daimer started by playing d4. Black played knight f6. Daimer plays f3. Extremely unorthodox move for an opening. Black played d6. White plays e4, g6. The opening now slowly is transforming towards Perk defense. White moves ahead with another unorthodox move, which is g4. Black plays bishop g7. White goes on to attack the knight and plays g5. The knight moves to d7, f4. White is continuing with a pawn storm kind of a attack. Black plays c5. White plays d5. So this is move number 7. All the moves that white has made has been with his pawns. And if you look at the structure of the pawns now, it looks like the firm open jaws of a lion, right? Let's see the game. The game continued with black playing d5. Now this is a poisoned pawn and white played c3. White cannot really capture this pawn at b5. As I said, this is a poisoned pawn. Let's see what happens. If you take bishop into b5, you get queen a5 check. In normal situation, you would bring knight c3 and this would protect the bishop. However, see this diagonal, this is open. The bishop will take away this knight and this bishop will lose the protection. For example, if white plays knight c3, you get bishop into knight check, pawn into bishop, and here comes queen into bishop, and black is a piece up. Okay, so that's why this is a poison pawn, should not be taken, and white did not take it. White played c3. Now white can take this particular pawn. It is no longer poisoned because queen a5 does not come with a check. So the b5 pawn has to be protected, and black plays a6 to protect that pawn. White plays h4. Black plays knight b6. White continues attacking black with pushing his pawns forward, plays h5. Black plays e6. White pushes the h pawn, attacks the bishop. Bishop has to go back, and black plays bishop f8. This is move number 11. 11 moves into the game and Daimer hasn't moved a piece yet. All pawn moves. No other pieces has been moved yet. This is highly unconventional way of playing and not recommended at all for any player. But this is Emil Daimer for you. Let's see how the game continued. White played another pawn move, attacking the b5 pawn, trying to break the queenside pawn structure, and played a4. Black captured the pawn on d5. You have a5. Now threatening to take this knight at b6. This knight goes to d7. Actually over here, knight c4 would have been more active rather than taking this knight to d7. At a5, if black would have played knight c4, the game could have continued by white capturing this pawn on d5 and threatening to take this particular rook. This is not actually a threat. We will see why. For example, black can play queen c7, okay, and white should not take this rook over here, instead should take this knight over here. This rook, as I said, should not be taken, because if white takes this rook, black can play bishop b7, queen has only one square, that is a7. Then you have black playing knight c6, and now queen has got no square left and this queen is gone, right? So here with queen into d5, black playing queen c7, white should not capture the rook at a8 and should go ahead with bishop into knight over here. You can have bishop b7 attacking the white queen. White first can capture the pawn at b5, giving a check. You will have a into b5, queen will come to d3, c4 attacking the queen, queen goes to d4 again, and rook comes to g8 because this queen is attacking the rook, and this is not bad for black at all in terms of position, okay? But instead of taking the knight to c4, here black decided to continue with knight 6 d7. The game continued with e into d5. Now we have got bishop e7. White played c4. Black played f6. White played c into b5, and you had f into g5 now. Here I think instead of f into g5, a into b5 would have been a better move. For example, if you play a into b5, you get g into f6 attacking this bishop, bishop into f6, queen e2 check, king goes to f8, knight f3, you have c4, bishop e3, knight a6, and the position is equal now, okay? But black did not play a into b5 and instead played f into g5. Now here white played a very bad move. White played f5, and the problem is black replied by equally bad move, played g into f5. Instead, black could have played over here short castle, okay? The game could have continued with b6, knight e5, which opens up this bishop's attack on this pawn, knight f3, knight b d7, so that this knight can be kept centralized on e5 position, knight into e5, knight into e5, bishop e2. Now black bishop captures the pawn, bishop into f5, knight c3, a developing move, bishop f6. Now you have bishop e3, queen e7, trying to capture this very crucial e column, queen d2, planning a long castle, ra e8. Now this entire column will completely come under black's control. White castles long, knight f7. Now you have got two attacks on this bishop. This bishop, if you move this bishop, you have got this bishop under attack, but this bishop has got two protections, one by the white queen and the white knight, but this knight can be taken by the bishop over here, okay? So now actually black is winning. This is a winning position for black, all right? So f5 was a bad move, and white could have replied with castle short, and it would have been quite a good position for black to continue. But in the main game, black played g into f5. The game continued with queen h5 check, king went to f8, knight f3, eyeing on this pawn over here. Right now you have got three attacks on this pawn, and you have got only two defenses on this pawn, and this is a very crucial pawn. Black comes to rescue with playing rook g8, providing additional protection to this pawn. White pushes this pawn to b6. Here comes bishop b7. Actually, over here, instead of bishop b7, black should have played bishop f6. I'll show you why. If black plays bishop f6, you have rook a3, knight e5, knight into e5, bishop into e5, bishop d3, queen e7, and this is looking for some discovered checks. King goes to d1 to avoid such kind of threats. f4, knight c3, knight d7, king c2 running towards the queenside safety, bishop into c3, rook into c3, knight e5 centralizing this knight, rook e1 pinning this knight because there is a queen over here, queen f6 removing the pin, but then this pawn is now left undefended and you have bishop into h7, rook h8, bishop has to move, bishop moves to e4, we have got rook into h6, queen has to run, queen comes to e2. Now here black has two formidable passed pawns and a very active pieces, so this position is definitely good for black. So over here, after b6, black shouldn't have played bishop b7. Instead, black should have played bishop f6. Anyways, the game continued with bishop b7. White played knight c3. And here came a blunder by black. Black played knight f6. Remember, a few moves back we told you that this pawn at g5 is a crucial pawn. Okay, so if you are playing knight f6, this pawn loses two protections. All right. Now the argument is that this knight is attacking the queen over here, but then white plays really smart over here and goes ahead with knight into g5. Okay, I'll show you why knight into g5 is such a beautiful move, but before that, let us see what should have black played instead of knight f6. Instead of knight f6, actually black should have played bishop f6. The game could have continued with bishop d3, attacking the pawn over here, queen e7, king goes to f1, f4, bishop d2, and black is not too badly off. Knight f6, as I told you, allows white to go for a very smart move. So here came knight f6 attacking the queen, and black expected that this queen is going to run away, but this never happened, and here white played knight into g5, leaving the queen hanging over here. But it's a sham sacrifice because you can easily see that this square, once the knight comes, will give a check to this king and take away the queen as well, right? So it is a sham sacrifice. The queen is not going anywhere, but right now there is no other great move for black to play and the queen has to be taken. So black captures the queen. White goes with knight e6 check and forking the queen over here. King goes to e8, knight into queen, and here black, instead of capturing this knight over here, and rightly so, plays knight g3 attacking this rook over here. Okay, white can move the rook, but in this situation more important than the rooks are these protective pieces, right? So white plays knight into bishop and black captures this rook over here. White looks exchanged down, but as I said, the minor pieces are right now more important here, and black's rook over here is absolutely useless. Okay, the game continued with white playing bishop f4. This pawn has got only one protection, so black plays rook g6 protecting this pawn. Now white castles long, bringing this rook into action. Knight goes to f2 attacking this rook, and then you have this square, you have this square, this knight will run away, right? Rook goes to e1 pinning this particular bishop. Now you can take this pawn. So black does not allow that and plays king d7. And here comes another masterpiece move. White plays knight b5. Okay. This knight at b5 cannot be taken. Instead of taking this particular knight, black plays knight e4, which is the right move. Now, try guessing why this knight on b5 cannot be taken. Let me give you a hint. If you take this knight, it's checkmate in 8 moves. Can you find the combination? Pause the video here and think. And for those who are too excited, let me show you the combination. If, let's say, black plays a into b5 capturing this knight, you have bishop into b5, check. Okay. King has got no other great moves over here, only one move, that is king c8. This bishop is lost. Rook into e7. Okay. Now see the threat. If the rook comes here, it's a checkmate, correct? If the rook comes here, it's a checkmate. How do you avoid this checkmate? You cannot. You can just delay the checkmate now. You can have knight d3 check. Okay. King goes to d2. Let's say rook g2 check. You get king into d3. Give some more checks, maybe c4 check. King c3. Maybe rook g3 check. Bishop into g3. Alright. And let's say knight c6. Then you get d into c6. What are you going to play? You are just going to delay this entire mate, but you cannot really delay, right? So let's say here now black plays f4. Well, you have rook e8 checkmate, right? So here white played knight b5, and because this bishop is over here, you cannot take this knight. It's a beautiful move. Okay, so black did not take this knight. Black played knight e4, which is the right move. The game continued with another masterstroke move. White played rook into e4. Okay, already white is an exchange down, and here it is giving one more exchange. Why? The thing is that though this is possible, it should not be taken. If you take f into e4, if you take this particular rook, you get bishop h3 check. King has got only one move over here. King goes to e8. You have knight 7 into d6 check. Bishop into d6. Knight into d6. Let's say king goes to f8. Knight into e4. And this is game over. Both of black rooks are pretty useless in this position. The white bishop pair is formidable, and nothing can stop this particular pawn to move to d8 and become a queen. Okay, this cannot be stopped. So when knight b5 was played, black rightly played knight e4, but white came up with another masterstroke move and played rook into knight, right? F into e4 is a bad move, and black here played rook g1, attacking this bishop over here. Okay, now white played rook e1, but instead of playing rook e1 over here, white could have played rook into bishop check. Okay, now what's the ploy? If this continues, let's say with king into rook, you get bishop into d6 check, king f6, knight c7 attacking this rook. This rook is anyways useless. Rook into bishop check, king d2, let's say c4, you get knight into a8, knight d7, knight c5, knight into c5, bishop into c5. And how will you stop this pawn from queening? This is then an easy win for white. Okay, but in the main game, to rook g1, white did not take this bishop. white played rook e1, protecting this bishop. This is also not a bad move. This is a logical move. This is a very good move as well. But I think the better move was rook into bishop over here. Okay, the game continued with rook into bishop, rook into rook. And this was essential because if you remove this bishop, the combination what we talked of, why a into b5 was not possible, is now possible. So for one rook, you are getting two minor pieces. It made sense. So in this position, this bishop was taken. When the rook was taken, the b5 knight was taken by black. Okay. All right. Let's see how the game continued. White played rook g1, planning to come to the 7th rank. King goes to c8, attacking this knight over here. But this pawn goes now, knight into d6. By the way, over here, even rook g7 was possible. With rook g7, you get king into g7, rook into e7 check, king a6, rook into h7, and this is also winning for white. This is possible. But here, white played knight into d6 check, and the game continued with bishop into d6, bishop into d6, knight d7, rook g8 check, king b7, rook g7 pinning this knight, king c8 unpinning and protecting this knight. You get rook into h7, and this is a passed pawn now. Rook into a5, you have b7 check. If you take this, the knight is gone, but you don't have an option out there. So the pawn has to be taken. White plays rook into knight check, king c8, attacking this rook. White is not bothering here. White goes ahead with h7. It's gonna queen. Rook a1 check. You get king c2. King into d7. Doesn't matter. You have now the queen on board. King into d6. Queen d8 check. King e5, d6, and this is where black resigned. White has clear and easy win. I hope you enjoyed this game of sheer brilliance by a Nazi grandmaster. Thanks for watching the video. Bye bye.